Hello, everyone. We are going to drop pretty quickly into Advanced Facilitation, Part 1. Now, this is Witch School apprenticeship programming, and so they are all necessary foundations in order to advance in your facilitation capabilities and skills. So this is where we're going to start. Let me share the screen with you really quick. All right, so here we are, and this is the PDF packet that you're going to receive that you can download, but you will also receive in person, on paper, in retreat. So if you're coming to retreat in person, you'll get this downloaded copy, or sorry, printed off copy. Otherwise, you can download it and print it off to your needs, wants, and desires. So this is circle craft, and this is the base part of witchcraft, circle crafting, ritual crafting, and witchcraft-based facilitation. So the first thing I want to say about this is that it all layers on top of each other. Every programming piece I've already done with you guys has been done to prepare you to know how to facilitate good content, right? So this is the part where I'm going to show you how to actually apply the things that I've been teaching you guys in circle settings so that you can start to build your own circles, covens, sacred gatherings, and then know how to build the content relatively easily because we've been practicing it for over half a year. So let's go ahead and dive in. So this is a 3-part layout. It will be gone over both in person in retreat format and also online to prepare you. So we are particularly going to talk about part 1 and part 2, which is circle crafting and ritual crafting. Part 3, which is witchcrafting, this is where we join in groups and go through each other's group ritual and circle, as well as provide feedback and testimonies. So really and truly, the goal that I have for pre-recording this and sharing it with you is so that I can go ahead and share the meat of the content and the objectives so that when we are in person, we can ask a lot of questions and we can focus on the circle crafting elements and then the ritual crafting elements and then practice, right? And so we're just reducing the amount of live time so that you guys can go ahead, watch, learn, and begin to work on your content, all right? So what we're gonna talk about first is part 1, which is the circle crafting. So a lot of people don't realize that there is a major container component to facilitation. And so these are some of the things that we're going to talk about. You're also going to see a separate document called shared agreements that you guys are more than welcome to use. You might need to edit them a little bit. They're pretty particular for an online circle, but they're the general same things that I would say if I was running a longer term coven or something like that. So let's dive into it. So there are types of circles, all right? The most common circle is typically a sharing circle or an information circle, right? Where we are sharing primarily on parts of our own lives and are focused on support of the group or the topic. So a great example of that would be like new moon sharing circles or grief support sharing circles, right? Where we get to share and be witnessed and mirrored in a group container. The second would be discernment or counsel. These are very intense. You will all get to experience a counsel in all of the live programming. So in terms of the retreats, everybody goes through a counsel. Counsels are really intense, and I'll get more into it as we progress through this handout. But they are incredibly valuable containers for people. The third is ritual circles, and these are primarily focused on spell work, seasons, Sabbaths, so like a Litha circle or a Lunicid circle or a Mabon circle, a summer solstice circle, spring equinox, however you like to call it. It could also be focused on like a banishing circle or a manifestation circle or a healing circle. But it creates the primary focus isn't about talking, it's about doing, right? It's about some sort of embodiment aspect. The fourth would be an action circle. So this is typically focused on things like social justice or taking group action towards a call, like hexing the patriarchy, right? That's like an action circle where everybody is taking directive energy towards some sort of specific outcome. And they're super cool. They're just not necessarily what I typically teach. I weave it into everything I'm doing, but it's not usually like the main piece, but it is great for mainly like social activist type people. And then 5 is ceremonial circles. So this is high magic. It's ritualistic, but more ceremonial, like a death ritual, a life ritual, a birth. Ceremony circles are things like cord cutting, or raising energy towards something, or where you're like, you know, we are going to gather as the moon is entering the 22nd mansion and Jupiter is, you know, coming into conjunction with Saturn, and we are gleaning the energy from these alignments into our bodies to direct it towards manifesting a car, right? So it's like very specific high magic ceremony. It's you show up and you're already bathed. You're usually wearing white or black. They're very high magic ceremony circles. I've done them. They're really cool. They're not necessarily my jam because there's like this very proceeding like order like to it. And I'm very much like a chaos witch. So I tend to do more ritual circles versus the ceremonial circles, but I do love high magic. So you can always kind of blend those two. The point of sharing all of these is that the most important thing to say about doing circle work is that the facilitator needs to be the clearest. And that's the point of what I'm trying to teach you, is how to become a clear, goal-oriented, focused facilitator, because your circles are only as good as you are, in the sense of being able to contain them towards a goal or direct them towards an outcome. If the goal is just grief circle and maybe it's just airing grief, then, you know, like it's really just sitting with grief. But if your goal is to not just like witness grief, but also mirror grief, then what that would mean is that there's two parts. There's two different parts of the goal. So one is to hear the grief, and the second part is to go back around the circle and hear other people say, you know, Sharon, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. Hearing you say that brings up this certain part of my life when my kids were really little, and, you know, my husband died, or my husband had to go on a 6-month trip, and I was alone all the time and like grieving, losing my freedom. So mirroring is different than just airing out grief and just like holding it, right? Or even the sense of not just the airing out of grief, which is the listening aspect, and the mirroring, but then the witnessing, right? So there's these aspects that happen, and good facilitators understand that in order to have a good circle, you need a goal. You need a question of, what are my people walking away with? What do I want them to feel like? Do I want them to feel energized? Do I want them to feel held? Do I want them to feel secure? Do I want them to, you know, feel empowered and ready to burn their lives down? Like, you are the one that directs that energy. Nobody else is going to do that for you. And so in order to be a strong facilitator, you need to come in with a directive and a goal, even if the goal is just to like be witnessed and seen, and that's it, but that's the goal. Okay. You know, like my teacher, Danielle, always says that trying to cast a circle without the container is like trying to cook soup without a pot, or trying to do magic without the container is like cooking soup without a pot. It just spills everywhere. It needs a cauldron, right? And you are the cauldron creator. You are the container creator. All right. So it's important to understand that. So you have to decide what kind of circle you want to run up front. Facilitators' roles in establishing the container up front with shared agreements are everything, okay? Nothing goes down unless you say so, or open the space for something else to happen, okay? Facilitating the circle in general isn't necessarily that difficult. It's being able to direct the conversations. It's being able to shut down certain conversations that aren't effective for the group. And so there's a lot of dynamics that you have to learn how to meet within yourself before I think that you're going to be ready to priestess a circle. You know, you got to be willing to tell people like, hey, we don't crosstalk, or hey, she did not ask you for your opinion, right? We're mirroring. Or, hey, do not hand her tissues. Let her grab her own tissues, right? So it's like you have to be okay with being a strong facilitator in order to ground the circle if you're doing magic. Okay, again, sharing circles are a little different, but the more high magic you become, the more it's your job to direct the circle and everybody's experience. Okay. So the circle dynamics, do not seat couples, besties, or families right next to each other. What that means is that energetically, when we are sitting in circle with people, if you have two people that are really close and they sit right next to each other, it creates the energy will start to pull in 1 second or one segment of the circle. So if you're in person, you want to orient those people to be across from each other because it will strengthen the angles of the circle. So say that you have 4 people in your circle that are really strongly connected, put them at the angles of the circle. So like the north, the east, the south, and the west. But like, even if you don't have that many people that are super close, do not let couples, besties, or siblings, or like family members sit right next to each other because it will make the energy in your circle wonky. Okay. No cross-talking and the use of talking sticks. So the no cross-talking is the piece of sovereignty. It's shadow work consciousness and taking responsibility for yourself and your own energy in the circle. This is one of the most important parts, is reminding people, and this is used through shared agreements, that these are the group rules that you have set and everyone has committed to in order to function in your container. I usually have 10 and people have to read them before they come and agree to them. I will go over them here in just a minute. I didn't prepare that. So let me pull those up 1 second. All right, so here we have a version of my online shared agreements. You will have these attached so you can look at them in more depth. I'll just show you a couple of them, just the general pieces. So one of the first parts of the shared agreements is that you have to state your name and pronouns and how you want to be known during our time together. The second piece is that we are here to be witnessed and to witness others. We work hard to listen and witness our fellow Wilde's journeys. If someone expresses hardship, please refrain from projecting your own emotional response into their story or making comments that might cause them to pull in or shut down. No cross-talking. Whoever has the metaphorical talking stick speaks, plus the facilitator if they need to speak, right? Privacy. We ask permission before we comment on someone else's journey. We agree to remain kind and curious. These are just some of the agreements. We agree to respect our bodies and take bio bathroom breaks if needed. We respect other people's timetables by showing up on time. Communication, questions, clarifications, problems. Ask these questions. That's your responsibility, is to ask a question if you don't understand. Number 9, consciousness. And 10, sisterhood, developing relationships and investing in the strengthening of our own circle. Okay, so again, like I said, these are your shared agreements that you guys can use. You can literally use these shared agreements. Essentially, you paid for them by joining the program. So I just want you to recognize that they might not necessarily fit every area that you're interested in, particularly for your circle or program, but you are more than welcome to use them and adjust them just a little bit to meet your needs. Okay. Okay, so we're back to this content. Again, like I said, the shared agreements will be attached below. I think I might even try to add them to this document so they're all in one place at the back. Some helpful tools that you might need to invest in: cards, candles, ritual elements, things like shells and feathers and dirt, flowers, things like that to bring to the circle, to bring life to the circle. Talking sticks are so important. A talking stick could be anything. It could be a stone, but it is something physical that people can hold on to if you're in a physical space, that denotes who is talking and who is not, right? A timer and a shaker. So like little egg shakers, when you come to retreat, we will be making those together. And we will be talking about the use of timers. So I won't go too much into it right now, but we'll talk about it in retreat immersion. And then a guiding intention, which is the goal, which we're going to talk quite a bit about. So layouts and cycles of circles. We decide up front how many times we're going to round the circle based on the type of circle and the number of participants and desired outcome. The lunar rounds come after the shared agreements have been set and the container has been closed via casting the circle. First, we must communicate the shared agreements, then communicate upfront what kind of circle you are casting. So what that means is it a hard circle? A hard circle means you can't get up after it's cast or it will dramatically alter the spell work. A soft circle means you can get up and it won't affect the spell work. So like if you're teaching people need to get up and use the bathroom or move their bodies, a soft circle means like you do you, man. A hard circle means like we're in it, like we are in the middle of our big spell work and you need to go to the bathroom before we get there. If I know that we're moving into hard circle space at any point in my circle or my programming, I tell people generally an hour before so that people can use the bathroom before we get into that space. So not everybody's going to the bathroom at the exact same time, particularly in the same location, like if we're all live in person, because usually there's only 1 or 2 bathrooms and it could take a long time and cut into your program timing. The next thing is to name what kind of energy you are working. Are you invoking? Are you calling something towards you? Are you banishing? Are you pushing something out? Are you binding? Are you connecting something deeper to you? Are you energy raising something towards a spell? Are you doing healing work? Are you doing manifestation and trying to attract something towards you? You need a general sense of what it is that you're doing, okay? Being able to name those things as a facilitator will help your students recognize what the hell it is you're doing, okay? So here's some of the circle casting steps. We're going to go over this in retreat quite a bit more. And also in our programming as we move through facilitation. And that is the grounding cord meditation and breath work to get people into present moment awareness. Connecting the circle, calling on elements, guides, deities, ancestors, guardians, angels, whomever you're invoking in the space. The pentagram of being, which you'll learn with me. The crack open to start the circle facilitation, which is the actual circle, and then to open the circle back up. Okay, so it's quite a bit, but it becomes, the more you do it, the more simple it feels because it's just normal. Okay, so these are the lunar cycles of the circles. It's kind of up to you to decide how many circles there's going to be. And what I mean by circles is like the rounding of the circle. How many times the talking stick is passing? How many times people are talking? So for example, if you're sitting in a group of like 6 people, you could probably pass the talking stick significantly more than if there's 30 people. Like I've had circles where there's 30 people. And like people have to do what we call window shopping, which is like 30 seconds of communication. So it cuts into the longevity of how long they can talk. One quick fix for that is to split people into small groups and give them something to talk about. And then, you know, depending on how many people are in it, they get to share and be witnessed with like maybe 3 people in a group or 4 people in a group, and then come back to the big circle. And then come back to like 30-second shares and then move on into the content, right? So the new moon is where we do the name sharing. Why we're here. Set the container with maybe a book or sharing a story. Also naming Samantha, which is the inner critic who's all in the room. Lay down shared agreements, name the intention for the circle, and most important work facilitator is to set a clear container and intention for the work to be done, okay? The waxing moon energy is where you do the crack open. And this is where it's like you may have read like an opening book statement after everybody shared their names and shared agreements. And maybe you read a book about, or a passage about Kali. Then you would, at the waxing moon, you would take the talking stick, you decide which direction you want to go. Do you want to corkscrew down into the earth, or do you want to pull up towards the heavens, right? And then you would pass the talking stick and you would say, what stood out for you in that sharing, right? Or if you shared something about maybe astrology or the season, like, you know, a star or something like that, then people could be like, yeah, you know, I have noticed at this time of the year, I do kind of come back to life and feel like I'm defrosting. Or people could be like, you know, when I think of Kali, I think of this, but you don't really want to over direct it. You just want to give them a sense to let them share, because everybody responds to things differently, particularly witches. So you just want to know what your question is. And it's mainly based on what it is that you're cracking the circle open with. Okay. And then you pass the stick. So that's the first round, is the waxing moon. The full moon is where the work gets done. This is where ritual happens, energy raising happens, asking questions, directing prompts, things like that. This is where the physical ritual happens. The waning moon is like after we've done the ritual, you pass the talking stick and you're like, you know, what happened for you? Like, what's one word? What's a takeaway? What's going to stick to the bones today? There's no cross talking here at all. It's just general share. And then the dark moon is the integration. The group is now a communal container. Shadow work is the group clear, reopening the directions and asking what's going to stick to the bones, takeaways and words of wisdoms. This is where people go home. Okay. Help them drain their energy back down to the earth after that. So some circle casting steps. I'm going to let you guys read through this mainly because we're going to do it in class and in person in retreat. But I do want you to read through this because these are some of the circle casting steps. Okay. So one of the circle worksheets that I like to ask is, you know, ask yourself these questions to help you figure out what it is you want to run. What is happening with the moon and stars that you're interested in right now? What is happening on Earth with the wheel of the year? You know, we're in this interesting place between Imbolc and Ostara. What are you passionate about? Where are you juicy and full of knowledge? Where are you dry and seeking? What books or subjects are inspiring you right now? And if you were to do a TED Talk, what are the 3 things you would speak about and why? If you taught on these things, what ritual tools would you need and which elements are being represented? So your exercise here is to notice which element is calling to you the most. These are particular questions that help you develop content. So right now, neurodiversity is what I'm feeling really juicy in. Feeling really juicy in ADHD content, sensory processing content, things like that. So that means that I could create a circle, even a sharing circle for ADHD folks, and in the experimental part, do body movement and learning how to raise energy with the high energetics of ADHD, right? So like just general sense, but you need to kind of like hone in on what's calling you. Through this program, what I'm going to have you guys work with are new moons, because new moons, in my opinion, are the easiest place to start with in terms of running a circle. The energy is more contained. It's not super full like it is at a full moon and erratic. It's easier to hold for people and allows people to work a 28-day cycle and then kind of keep coming back, right? So there's that. So moving into part 2, this is ritual crafting. So this is where I want you guys to start filling the blanks and being prepared for our retreat that's coming up. So in this part of the program, we're going to be learning the dynamics of what it looks like to prepare a circle, facilitate it, crack it open, direct its energy towards an intention, divination, spell, prayer, and etc. So the exercise is to start thinking about what kind of circle you want to run and why. Okay, so fill that out. Number 2 is to connect with your partner priestess. So this is where you're going to get partnered with somebody and share your passions, or read them a passage in a book or teaching, a divination tool, etc., and then ask for help and feedback to run your circle. Okay. And number 3 is to write out the general concept that you're going to share. The exercise is pick one of the following to craft your ritual circle. What kind of circle is it going to be? Counsel, sharing, ritual, high magic, or action? What is the focus of the outcome? Is it healing, banishment, manifestation, connecting, energy raising? What is it? The lunar cycle, is it a new moon, a waxing moon, full moon, waning moon, or dark moon circle? What zodiac sign could you shine the light through? Aries through Pisces? What part of the wheel of the year are you at? What element are you working with? And then just a general paragraph of vision casting it. Show us what we're doing, right? Give me a description with a paragraph or 2 about what's happening and vision cast it for me. Okay. You'll see all of these in a Google document that I want you to fill out before a retreat, and then we will continue to build upon from there. So some of the ritual elements, circle casting, the themes and the anchor. What is your circle about? What's its theme? The embodiment and anchor pieces, things like herbs, stones, oils, spell jars, movement, feeling, etc. What do you want to access? Do you want to do an actual spell? Do you want to do an actual craft? Do you want to teach them how to put something into the earth? Do you want to plant something? You want to kind of think about that. Divination, so oracle, tarot, runes, etc. What are you going to use to help people self-study themselves, right? to get into some of those deeper pieces of diarrhea, which is like the self-study, right? The alchemical elements, what correlates to the season and or the moon phase sign, right? So this is where it's like we're in the spring and it's at Litha, which is bonfires. So we're working with fire energy. So examples, Ostara, full moon in Leo, that's that quickening moon. The next piece is energy raising. So things like body prayer. This is very particularly happening at retreat, is body prayer. I will show you guys like little pieces, but it's very hard to explain unless we're actually doing it. I don't know how else to explain it. Body prayer is hard to do online. I will say that. It's probably like the hardest thing I think that there is to do online, but we will do it and we will do it well. Some versions would be swaying, rocking, bilateral movement, meditation, craft work, using your hands, artwork, ritual, things like that. Those are all energy raising aspects. Singing is another one. And then 7 is desired outcome. How do you want people to feel? Use a prompt to get a centered outcome to take home with. For an example, I am committed to blank in the blank zodiac sign or the new moon. Like say if it was Capricorn, I'm committed to disciplining my time during the Capricorn new moon, right? Like helping people make a simple mantra. And then closing the circle and sending the directions home, pulling up grounding cords and grounding your clients, okay? Here are some pieces that you can craft around for the elements. You'll see on the next couple of pages, you know, some examples of them. So for fire, it's like candles and bonfires. Air is like incense, feathers, words, songs. Water is like cleansing, salt baths, tea, essential oils. Earth is like material, dirt, money, blood, bones, structures, plants. There's a lot more, but those are just some places you could start. The next piece is, you know, looking at what moon phase you're working with based on its zodiac sign. So we've got the zodiac signs here. Crafting around the lunar cycle. So we'll go more into this in retreat, but this is about picking one of the 5 main energies of the lunar cycle to work with. Which one do you want to work with? Down here, you can see new moon is setting intentions in the seed phase. Waxing moon is gaining energy and commitment towards a goal. Full moon is celebration, illumination, and magic. Waning is release, surrender, letting go, and healing. And dark moon is banishment, dark goddess, and shadow work, right? So those could be some helpful tools to help you build. Some crafting ideas around the zodiac. You'll see astrology signs. So like Aries through Pisces, ways to practice. So Aries like movement, fire, drumming, warrior, challenge, rage, ritual, instinctual. All the way through it, like Sagittarius, enrolling in new workshops, learning something new, spiritual systems. But there's all kinds of stuff. So these are just some general ideas in case you're, you know, interested in it. So all of that being said, these are some basic pieces. It's important that you recognize that this takes time, and this is where, in a lot of ways, the majority of the program is helping you learn how to connect to becoming a good facilitator. Because if you learn how to become a good facilitator, then you're going to also be good at being a coach and holding those shared agreements. You're also going to be good at creating workshops or retreats. And so being able to hold space for like a 3-hour new moon circle is going to set you up in a lot of ways for attracting a lot of clients, and really like having fun and expanding your witchcraft out. My goal is always for people to leave the program that they're in and feel ready to start running new moon circles in their location. And that's the goal, is to help facilitate you guys as Wilde facilitators that have been certified to run these things and utilize all of these teachings in kind, conscious ways to help people heal, right? To help people access their witchcraft in conscious ways, all right? Hopefully this was helpful for you guys, and I will, I'll catch up with you soon. All right, thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.